Hey there, welcome to the Healthy Vibes podcast. I'm Kelly Renato, and I thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Today, I have a special guest and a really wonderful conversation with Julie Roebken. She's a certified breathwork facilitator, embodiment mentor, and a devoted apprentice of Jesus. She founded Mindful House in 2018, and she's dedicated to encouraging women to release chronic busyness and distraction and create unhurried, spacious lives. Her mission is to help women in midlife fall back in love with their life, their faith, and their purpose through rest, rhythm, and realignment. Her work is anchored in breathwork, nervous system regulation, neuroscience, embodiment practices, and spirituality. I love Julie's mission. I've loved the conversation we had today, and I know you will too. So let's get to it. Thanks for being here. All right. Hey, Julie, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Thanks, Kelly. I am just excited to be here. This is so fun for me.
Well, you do so many things that I feel like can align with some of what I talk about and do as well with my clients.
Yeah,
And so I'm really excited to dive into your work and how you're helping women, as you say, fall back in love with their lives and slow down and live a more unhurried life, which I know I'm striving for, but I would love for you to give us a little bit of background of what led you here or, how you got to this place of working with women in this arena.
absolutely. So I'll make a very long story short as possible. But what's led me here is just really my life experience. Like I feel like
Mm,
every little decision, heartbreak, um, everything, has kind of led me on this path. It's so cool to be able to look back on my life and see all the little things have, helped to shape what my life looks like today in really beautiful
mm,
ways, sometimes hard ways, but
right.
my background was really in corporate. I was always in a kind of a high level enterprise sales role in corporate. And that's where I started right out of college, moved around a bunch, always trying to kind of fill this, hole that I felt like, I don't think this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. But it was a blessing in that it allowed me to take care of myself and, have a nice lifestyle and provide for my kids. I was a single mom for many years. But always knew that there was something else for me, that I was really here to do something different. And so I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I've dabbled with, starting different things. But it was 2018 that I was still working, and I was like, I am going to just at least kind of, I don't know what that saying is, plant my flag in the sand. Like I am building a business around what lights me up and what
I love it. Yes.
fills my soul. And so Mindful House, which is still the name of my LLC and overall business today, and it's Mindful HAUS. It started as an online shop. And so I have a passion for beautiful, like artisan goods that are like crafted with love, and also have always had this desire to encourage and support women in slowing down, in focusing on self care and what I now call soul care, and just really being way more conscious about how we're living with more intention, consuming with more intention, right? Focusing
Hmm.
on like less, not more, quantity over or quality over quantity, that kind of thing. So I had
Yes.
this beautiful run with this online shop. And oh man, it was so fun, and I loved it. I had an amazing experience, met the most amazing women. So it was mostly online, but I do pop-ups and that kind of thing. But long story short, it was just we ran into COVID, obviously, and that really changed things in a dramatic way. And it was really hard to be profitable. So by the time
Hmm.
I made every little package beautiful and special, and it was hard to
Right.
to monetize it, I guess. But it was certainly fun. And so at that point, I was experiencing some other big life changes. It was actually just prior to that, but I started. Uh, let's see, it was about 2017 that I was kind of going through this as I was launching Mindful House and all that. But I started having some pretty severe physical symptoms. Um, it's kind of hard to describe, but like tingling in my toes and my hands and dizziness. And, I'd walk into a grocery store and the room would start spinning. And
My
at the
goodness.
same time, I'm in a high, stress tech sales job. I'm a single mom of teenage kids, and I'm experiencing these really frightening things and it was like my body was screaming to me, right? And so part of me thought, am I making this up? Is this what they say? Like, you can create, things in your head and like
Right.
start to
Yes.
manifest. And so, but I have a history of my mom has brain tumors, my grandma had MS. And so, of course, there was that fear that there might be something a little bit more serious going on. And I went to a neurologist just to kind of, I was pretty scared at that point. And essentially, she said, Julie, let's, I do suggest we do an MRI. And so I went back for the MRI results on my brain, and she put up the scans and she said, Julie, you have a perfectly healthy brain.
Oh,
You're going to have to do something about your stress.
oh,
And so that led me on this path. It was obviously a huge relief, but also like, wow, I thought I can manage this all. Like truly in my
right.
mind, I
Don't
am.
we all?
Yeah, I'm not stressed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a strong woman. I can do this crazy hectic job. I can raise
Yeah.
kids. I can balance and I can start a business and that there's that saying in the book, beautiful book, the body keeps the score. And it's so true. And so it was I was doing a lot of things right because I've always prioritized, health and well-being. But the strategies I, was using, they just weren't working for me. And my body was like screaming at me that you've
Yeah.
got to make some changes. You've got to slow down and learn how to. I was living what I've now come to realize, and I was not aware at the time. I was living in this constant dysregulated state where my nervous system was like, I was running from a tiger at all times. That's what
Mm,
it felt like.
right. Yeah.
But and I didn't know it. And so that set me on the path to really trying to understand the power of what it means to live in a more regulated state, right? Where we can get our body out of that fight or flight into our parasympathetic state, that more, rest and digest place. And so how do we do that? What's the most efficient way to do that? Well, in my research, I found it was through our breath, which was just transformative in every way for my life because it set me down, this path of really getting inspired and just encouraged by how this beautiful, simple tool that God gave us that's
Yeah.
free, it's wildly effective, how it can truly transform our health. Not just get us into a more relaxed, calm state, but there's so many other benefits to just learning how to breathe actually properly, how it nourishes our cells and our mind and our metabolism and everything. So uh, long story short, I went on to get different advanced certifications in breath work and nervous system work. And then through that, it led me into this path of understanding what embodiment means. And I come from a strong Christian faith, and a lot of this was like not necessarily talked about, or it was,
Right.
some of it was put off and put into this like new agey woo woo space, which it's just not at all. It's so
Right.
practical. Everything I studied and everything I do is very spiritual, but science based too. And it's just life changing. And so when I talk about embodiment, so I'm kind of giving you the foundation of everything that shapes my work today, right?
Right.
And so embodiment work is really how do we truly live our life, our faith, in an embodied way where we're truly coming from our heart, our body, which is where we carry, the wisdom. It's where we connect with God. It's not in our heads. And for most of my life, I've been living like from the neck up, and I think so many women today are just we're thinking our way through life, and we're missing out on that fully like I don't know, expressed, embodied, like living out the whole spectrum of feelings and emotions because we've, pushed a lot of that down. So I really think it's both learning how to regulate our nervous system, to breathe properly, to use our breath to get us into, a calmer, more relaxed state, and to live from this embodied, slower, unhurried pace. It's just, it opens up so much. And I think now more than ever, especially as, many of us are in midlife, at least I am, I just feel like there's no better time to be looking at this and at least building our awareness around where we are rushing and hurrying and shallow breathing and so the work I do I still made it a long story, but the work I
But
do today is really all around this slowing down, living with more
yes,
intention. Yeah.
you said so many good things, and I feel like I was trying to write them down because I wanted you to finish because I loved where
Yes.
you were going with all of it. You said so many good things, though. First of all, I love how you say soul care instead of self care.
Yeah.
I would absolutely say that describes more of what I go after too, but I love that you just said it that way. That's so because I don't think we all think about it that way. And I love how you talk about coming from the heart and taking care of the heart because I love the verse Proverbs 4:23, above all else guard your heart for everything you do flows from it. And I think
Yes.
it's a reminder about your heart and the science of it, but also exactly what you're describing. And so breath work, which I'm a big pusher of simple, there's so many simple things that we can do to
Yeah.
shift life. And I think so many of us, especially women that are similar to where you were in the corporate
Mhm.
world
Mhm.
and busy and mothers, and we can do this. And I agree, most of us can, but shifting it to simple things that can slow your life down.
Yeah.
So let's start there because just simple things. I want to talk about the breath work, but where do you start? Like with someone, just simple ways to start slowing down.
Great question. So simplicity is a huge value of mine,
Huge.
and the work that I'm doing, it's key. It's just kind of like what I lump into this category of sacred rhythms, right? Simplicity
Okay.
is a big part. Showed us the way, this different pace, and he was all about keeping things so simple, right? And
Mhm.
that's what I aim to do, and even taking these complex, conversations around, proper diaphragmatic breathing and neuroscience and neuroplasticity and all that, making it so simple so we can just take what's really powerful and transformative and start to apply it today. And so, where do we start? I always like to start, first of all, wherever you are in life, really taking inventory of like, how is life feeling? Not like the external measures of uh, success or whatever, but internally, like how am I feeling about my life? And if I were to look ahead at, this season of life, maybe 5, 10 years out, how do I want my life to look? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? How do I want to move through my days? How do I want my relationships to feel? Do I want to be coming from this like this easeful, restful, uh, grounded place and energy? Or do I want to be, because our energy obviously affects everything, but how do I want to be thinking? So taking inventory and really casting a vision. And that sounds so kind of silly, but it's so powerful. So we start there. Like you have to start with the end in mind, right? I think it's in the Bible, right? Where there is no vision, the people
Absolutely.
will perish. And so we need to have a vision for what is it that we do want our lives to look like. And when we start there, we can kind of work backwards. Okay, in order to, and really important is, are the thoughts, are the feelings, are the beliefs I have today going to create that life for me? And if not, that's where we start. So crafting a more unhurried, intentional life, it's not just about slowing down. although that is really, really
Right.
a great way to start. So, but I look at it through a few different lenses. And so, in order to do that, I think it's really important to first, for me, the foundational is looking at your state of being. So, how are you? Our nervous system is, our nervous system is really the filter through which we experience life. So, we've got to start there. Everything is filtered through our nervous system. And so, how we affect our state is first and foremost how we're breathing, believe it or not.
Mm.
So many of us, so I always like to start there, not just with when we talk about breath work too. I like to keep this super simple. Breath work is just any conscious manipulation of your breathing for any reason. So encourage using our breath to um, calm, to
Hmm.
relax our nervous system, to get us into that more rested, grounded, parasympathetic rest and digest state. Our physiology works better. More oxygen is, going to our brain. We're thinking more clearly. Our heart rate is lower. So all that's beautiful. There's lots of breath work you can do out there to excite your nervous system, and that can be useful too in certain situations. But I think for most of us women, we're already running around excited enough, and
Right.
we can't always be in a regulated state. That's unrealistic. We just want to kind of build that muscle, train our bodies to be in a more relaxed parasympathetic state more often. So we start with the breath. We start with looking at, how are you breathing? Are you breathing through your upper chest, using your neck and shoulder muscles, which are not designed to be primary breathing muscles, but science tells us that 8 out of 10 of us as adults are breathing incorrectly. So many of us are in that fight or flight state just by how we're breathing, and we don't even know it. So we want to first kind of retrain our bodies, our brains to bring our breath back down to our diaphragm. That that muscle that's right underneath your ribs goes all the way back around to your lower back, and it's like a frisbee about the size of a skirt steak, or a frisbee kind of in the middle of your body, and it's designed
Hmm.
to expand on the inhale and contract on the exhale. And so just bringing your awareness back to like the fact that, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be breathing from my belly, allowing my body to relax on that inhale. And so many of us are like we're bracing for whatever,
Right.
right? We're holding in our body, or we're crouching over our computers, or we're carrying really heavy things, and we've forgotten how to breathe properly. So,
Well, I feel like that holding of the breath or the shallow breathing
mhm,
is very common, right? Like I notice
so common.
for myself, like I feel like over the years becoming more aware, which I think is huge. Like you said, just taking inventory and paying attention to your life,
Hmm.
which some of us go so fast we don't even can't figure we're not paying attention. But I noticed um, how shallow I was breathing and how when I got stressed, I was almost holding my breath sometimes. Like the more I paid attention to it, and so now I take these like deep breaths multiple times throughout the day. And
Yes.
sometimes my husband will be like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I said, "No, I'm trying to just like slow myself down." And I notice I feel so much calmer. And I know this is very simplistic compared to probably, what you teach with your clients, but just that slowing down
Oh my
and taking a deep inhale through my nose and blowing it out through, like trying to get
God.
every bit of it in and every bit of it out, just calms me. Just that in itself in the middle of a day. But I notice that,
I love
and
that. Yes. I
and that
love that you
tension, I
shared
can
that.
feel the tension, like you said, I feel it in my neck and my shoulders if I'm holding it in shallow breathing.
Totally. Totally. Your body's just in that like super hyper just you're just out of any place of relaxation when you're breathing like
Exactly.
that, right? You're
Right.
signaling to your brain through the vagus nerve that you do need to be like in fight or flight. And so what you just shared though is everything. It doesn't have to be complex. It
Right.
literally just becoming aware, like, oh yeah, I am taking these short shallow breaths. I need to slow it down. I need to breathe in, just take a nice deep inhale through my nose, exhaling through my mouth, even sighing it out, like is a beautiful tool to help us relax.
Yes.
And so it's so powerful and it's so simple. And so many of us will get through our entire day and not once think about our breath.
Exactly, right? And I think it's an awareness, like you said, and there is and I'm sure when people come to you wanting help, they're probably, I would guess, open to hearing it. But sometimes I think people in our life that we're trying to help, or friends, or that mindset or the perspective, trying to get them, like when I say, listen, just pause for a second and take a deep breath, and they look at you like, really? Like,
Yeah, come
do
on.
you know what's going on right now?
Right.
And you're like, I do, and this is where I believe you should start.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, but I think that the only thing we can really do is just be a good example. And so people are watching,
Right.
our children are
Yes. You're
watching,
right.
and my children will sometimes remind me like, mom, just breathe. And so they know,
Which
and
is
our
so good,
friends.
right? Yes.
Yes, our spouses see, but my husband does the same thing. Like when like and take a nice deep sigh, he'll be like, wow, is everything okay? I'm like, yes, it's just, that's what my body is needing right now.
Mhm.
Is a total, deep breath, deep inhale and a nice exhale. So yes. So
Which
such
is
power, such power.
such power. So you start with the breath work,
Yep.
an inventory of their life.
Hmm.
Um,
And lots more to do around kind of your nervous system and your state of being, but really looking at also kind of like your energy levels. And I think you focus a
mm,
lot on kind of the energy
yes.
as well. And, what are those things in your life that are uh, energy leaks? Right?
Yes.
Are there activities? Are there people? Are there relationships? Are there things that you're thinking that are absolutely draining your energy or that
Yes.
life force, that vibrancy in your life? What can we start to let go of? Because that's impacting everything in your life as well. And so, really starting to look at thoughtfully, and maybe we can't tackle it all. So I always encourage, like, look at your the different areas of your life, right? What's one thing that's really an area that you want to focus? Maybe it's your work, maybe it's your relationships, maybe it's your personal, like, physical space is causing you
Mhm.
anxiety, right? Because that's
Right.
very,
Right.
I mean, that happens. And we start there and start to look at, what can we let go of, creating space for more
Space.
of what
Yes.
matters, right? So spaciousness, I just
Absolutely.
love that word. So we start with state, and then we look at our story. And when I talk about our story, that's how the narrative we're using to talk, that we're telling ourselves and telling others about where we are in our lives. Like, who am
Mm,
I? What do I believe is true? What am I holding on to? My thoughts, feelings, beliefs, that kind of thing. Believe it or not, we absolutely have to look at these things in order to create change in our life, right? So that goes back to when I said in the beginning, like, is what you're thinking or believing about your life, is that going to get you to where you want to go, right? Or do we need to start
right.
looking at some of those thought patterns or beliefs, that maybe we're holding on to? Like, I can't slow down because this is my worth, or have
Mhm.
to be productive in order to be, you know, seen as capable and successful. Starting to look at some of those beliefs, believe it or not, it's our unconscious beliefs that are holding most of us back
Mm. Yep.
from actually making these changes. It's not that we can't slow down or that our schedules, yes, we're busy. And we're not talking about not being busy, we're talking about not being hurried. And
Mhm.
so we got to look at, is there anything that I'm hanging on to? Like, is my identity in how busy I am? I mean, I know a lot of women who are
Oh,
like,
yes.
Julie, I I don't want to slow down. Like, this is what makes me feel good. Like, this is how I've operated always. And so it takes a big intentional like awareness
Mhm.
and desire to make changes. And not everybody wants to, right?
Mhm.
But I think in order to just get the most out of our lives, to feel the most present, the most connected, uh, the most alive, the most, like, fulfilled, we have to give ourselves room to breathe, to just be, to have the space to listen, to
Yes, I couldn't
God,
agree
to
more.
discern. I mean, that's how we're going to have more
Yes.
clarity. We tap into more
Yeah.
creativity. So, uh, the focusing on your story is your thoughts, your beliefs, all that is a big part of this work.
I think that's so huge what you're saying, and I could not agree more. I feel like you sound like things that I like preach, but I agree because I feel like first of all, you have to create the space
Hmm.
for what matters most.
Yes.
But going back to that inventory, I think some people, like you said, they're telling themselves this story, but they've never really thought, am I get I'm telling myself this story, but is it really giving me what I really want, like you're
Right.
saying, and to be able to find the time to sit and think about it, because I think I remember when I became a mom, all those stories, that's where it all happened for me, is I just jumped right into the momhood of doing this and doing that and going to
Totally.
this and going to that, and I was drained, and I thought, "Is this really how the mother that I want to be?" Or and I had to, like, slow down and figure that out, but so I love all of what you're saying, the steps that you're going through, because we all need that. We all
Yeah,
need it and don't even realize it sometimes or don't realize that it's possible, I think,
that's right.
that
And I
you
think
can just shift a few things.
totally. And we're not. I like to just differentiate this focus on being a where what I don't want to do is, I think there's enough of this in the world, to encourage women to keep trying to be better, a better version of
Yes.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's where I spent most of my life. I'm a learner. I like to grow. I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, for those people who, like the Enneagram. Like, I am just striving to be better and good. And I finally had to get to that place where I was like, wow, I think the best version of myself is when I'm the most me, when I am in full acceptance of truly me, Julie, the
Mhm.
introvert, the woman who just wants to, who doesn't want to be in a high stress sales job, crushing it in a corporate career. That I just, what lights me up is supporting other women, and I'm an encourager. And so a lot of this story element or piece or pillar, whatever you want to call it, is more about coming back to your authenticity, to your essence,
Yes.
who you truly are. And when better than now in this season of life? Because by now, we've been through a lot as women, probably a lot of ups and downs and in betweens. And I think there's just no better time to realign ourselves with what really matters, our values, and what makes us us. Like, what really lights up our souls, what stirs
Mhm.
our hearts that we've just been ignoring or putting to the side because we've been so focused on supporting everybody else in our life, right?
Mhm.
And so a big piece, yeah, is this focus on true alignment with who God created you to be, who you really are.
Yes.
And we all know who that is. We just need to slow down enough to remember.
Right.
And so,
And be able to be that, like you said,
yes,
because when we are hurried, a lot of times we aren't that because we're just keeping up.
we're just keeping up. And a
Yeah.
lot of that has to do with the fact that we've just kind of put on these masks, right? We've put on these
Mhm.
layers for protection to, meet, societal expectations, our family's expectations, whatever. So I'm all about, let's take off those masks. Man, it's going to feel so good. It's going to feel so free.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
like that.
yeah. And so I like that visual too. I often use
Yeah.
the visual of, like, you're carrying this backpack and you've just been stuffing this backpack full of all these things that you beliefs, thoughts, experiences that are just still kind of burdening you or weighing you down, holding you back. And let's take off the backpack, because we
Yeah.
can. It's not going to happen
Yeah.
overnight, but with, awareness and slow, like, simple, small shifts, done consistently, we can start to make some pretty massive changes. So So that's kind of the second pillar, and then the third pillar is really all around our space, which I've kind of talked about a little bit already. But and when I talk about our space, I'm talking both our internal space. So what is taking up space in our hearts, um, in our uh, in our bodies, right? Like what are we holding on to? Stuck emotions, tension, trauma. It's time to start to, become more aware. And I am not a therapist, and I do not. I'm very, everything I do is trauma informed, but I am very pro therapy. So if you need to
Mhm.
partner with somebody, a professional on that piece, I'm a huge advocate for that because so many of us could use some support
Right.
there, in starting to let some of those emotional uh, wounds that are still affecting us, so we can start to work through those before we can really move forward with full open hearts. But so that internal work is necessary, and then our physical space, like, believe it or not, it makes such a big difference in how
Mhm.
we feel, especially as women. If you are like, I am very like, aesthetics and beauty in my surroundings is a big value of mine. It just makes
Mhm.
feel good. I love it. And I love, doesn't have to be extravagant, or for me, like just having fresh flowers in
Right.
my kitchen.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's like a little treat that it just lights me up, fills my heart. So I like to encourage women to, let's get more thoughtful about at least having one space. Maybe it's your office, maybe it's your bedroom, maybe it's a chair that you go to, or somewhere that feels really nourishing, that you can retreat to, and allowing it to be a nice reflection of how you want to feel and experience life. And so we go into, in the work that I do with women, a lot of certainly decluttering, simplifying your space, freeing up
Right.
space. So,
Which makes such a difference.
oh man,
I agree.
yes,
So, and these are again, they're not always easy, but they're simple things that you can do to begin to make changes
right,
slowly.
right.
And you talked a lot about what holds them back with themselves, like their mind or, their life. Do you find other challenges that outside of themselves that is a common theme with women trying to make changes that they're up against?
Well, I think I feel like it's more internal. A lot of it is maybe the beliefs, but also our nervous system. A lot, it's believe it or not, uh, we've grown accustomed to operating at this pace, or having a
Right.
cluttered space or whatever, and rushing around, doing all the things, making, sacrificing our well-being, our mental health, all that, because that's what has grown to feel safe in our bodies.
Which you keep saying that about the nervous system, which is so interesting to me. So, I guess, and it's hard to simplify this, I'm sure. And I know everything you're talking about helps change that, but you're saying that our nervous system has adapted to a certain way and you're trying to change that. Is
Right.
that that's what you're saying in a very
Yeah,
oversimplistic
no,
way?
that's a beautiful way of saying it, and
Like,
that's true. So
so
over
we've gotten used to it and we think it's supposed to be that way, but it doesn't have to be that way.
But that's right. And so when we start to make changes, when we, for example, um, let's say you are this busy, hurried, successful woman, you're a mom, you're juggling all the things, and you start to like, okay, I'm going to set some boundaries. I'm going to start to eliminate some of these things, which means I'm going to probably have to say no to some people, or I'm going to have to maybe disappoint some people. And I'm going to actually have some downtime in my calendar. I'm going to have some space, some margin to just be. And you are in that process, and you find yourself starting to kind of freak out, like,
Mhm.
what, like, it's not going to feel normal. It's going to feel uncomfortable because your nervous system is not used to having space and margin and being in a relaxed place, right? Often when we're relaxing, we're actually not really. We're drinking wine, or we're watching Netflix, or,
Right,
so
exactly.
so
Mhm.
it's just slowly allowing, kind of building that safety, in your body, in your heart, in your space. Like, nope, this is okay. Rest is actually productive.
Oh,
I
yes.
I I I get to give myself, this is such a gift to give myself this time, this space to slow down. It's such a gift. And so it's rewiring our bodies, it's rewiring our minds that we do not have to be hurried, rushed, doing everything all the time to be worthy.
Right. And changing that pattern of just finding time in your day, like you said, find a place. And I love having a place outside for me
Yes,
too, because I'm
yes.
such an outdoor, and I feel like we don't get enough of the fresh air and the sunshine, but just having even 5 minutes to just sit. And when I talk to people about this, sometimes they're like, "I can't do that." I'm like, "No, you can." I'm like, it's and the fact that you like think you can't or you think you'll lose it tells me that you need that.
That's
Like just
exactly why.
5 minutes. Like,
Yes.
one of my friends was like, "I'll go crazy." And I said, "No, you won't. That's telling yourself that you just need 5 minutes of nothing. Like go sit
Mhm.
outside or sit somewhere where there's nothing and just let your brain be." Like it's healthy. Like I feel like our brain needs that like space.
Our brain does. Our
Our
bodies do.
body,
And
yes.
to your point, being in sunshine, like just being out in God's creation, like just noticing, it's so powerful. It's so good for us. So, uh, you know, our breath, I keep going back to, that's a wonderful tool, but it's just one tool. To your
Right.
point, just taking a walk in nature, like
Yes.
looking around, noticing, that can be so calming to our nervous system. Laughing, singing, any type of
Yes.
movement, not for the purpose of like, exercise, but just moving, dancing. We all,
Mhm.
things work for each of us. It's like figuring out what feels really nourishing to your body, to your soul, what makes you feel more calm and grounded. Do that. Do more of
Yes. And I feel like we've come to this time where I just feel like this we've never lived in a time like this. And it's become so against the grain, against the world to do any of these things. And you're starting to see more of it, but just to say like it's okay. Like you don't have to feel like I think people need permission to say it is okay to say no to that.
that.
It
Yes.
is okay to back off and just have a night where you do nothing. It is okay. Like someone said to me, they're taking care of their mom, they're working, they have kids, and she said to me, it was just the other day, I had all these things that I needed to do, but I just sat there for several hours and just watched TV. And she felt bad, and I was like, "You
Oh,
can't feel bad. Like,
no.
you have been going nonstop for months, taking care of her mom, her kids, her work, just trying to keep up, and it's okay." Like, I think there is a part of the world that makes us feel bad about taking that time, but it's yeah.
And so I would, love to encourage like anybody listening, if this all feels like overwhelming and like, how do I slow down? My life's too busy. I
Yes.
couldn't possibly. We all have the same amount of time in the day, and I do believe that it is possible to carve out, start small, carve out an hour or two. That's maybe one day a week. That's just yours, that you're just going to literally focus on doing, maybe you're sitting there and journaling, or and I would love to, have you not like be watching TV, or but just giving yourself time to listen, to notice, to think, to feel, whether that's in nature or in a beautiful space in your home, and see how it feels, see what it
Mhm.
stirs up, right? And then from there you can start going, okay, I'm going to try to be a little bit more intentional with my schedule, with what I say yes to. Maybe
Mhm.
there's a few things you can start to let go of, and that over time that's just going to feel so good, and then you just start to
Want more?
want more.
Yes.
Right? I like, for me, my whole life is now a pursuit of simplicity, peace, spaciousness, ease, like beauty. That's what I'm in
Yes.
pursuit of. Like,
I would agree. We're on the
yes.
same path. And I
Yeah.
believe it started just like you said, like when people feel overwhelmed, because that's what happens. And there's so much out there. But just saying, just start small and just start. Like if you find that just 5 minutes, I find that when I started, I did it in the morning
Mhm.
and I just found some quiet time in the morning with just me. And it was journaling or reading like a devotion but I started with just a little and then I wanted more. and
Right.
and it's just that and then it became more and more and then I learned like you said, the next thing was just finding things to say no to that I could find a little more time and filling it with what was making me feel good or slowing down. So I like that. That's a
Yeah.
place to start, right?
And it is, and knowing, or at least reminding yourself, this isn't selfish.
No.
This is not selfish at all. This is a gift that you're giving to yourself, but also to those who love you, or that you love and are in your life, because you can't whatever pour out from an empty cup, right? So the more that you are giving yourself, I think the more we were able to be more who God created us to be. We're calmer, we're happier, we're tapping into that peace and joy that we cannot tap into when we are running around in a
Well,
dysregulated state. So it's like this ripple effect, that
exactly.
yeah, that you pour into yourself a little bit, in a really thoughtful way, and it affects everybody around you.
Well, I think sometimes we don't realize that we can do all these things in life and be calmer and we can enjoy them more and not feel like cuz I got to the point where I was very impatient. I got aggravated easily. I was
Mhm.
very irritable, like I was very resentful of some things and that was when I can still remember the time feeling like this isn't who I am. Like this isn't who I want to be. Like my heart, I want my heart to feel other things. I want to feel like grateful that I get to do all these things for my kids, or I want to feel joy in whatever I was pursuing. I didn't want to feel, and don't get me wrong, like those things creep up because life is life,
For
But I got to the point where I was just a calmer person. And I think and even there was a period where I would say, maybe it was to myself or other people that you feel irresponsible. Like if I'm not worrying and stressing and, you know, complaining about this or that, like we get in these habits, like we think we're not as responsible, but
yeah,
it's like a different, like a different state of your nervous system. Like I'm in a different state than I used to be in, and it still creeps up, but I'm not that anxious, impatient person all the time. Sometimes I am.
yeah.
Sometimes I do go
Well,
there,
we
but
all
then I
are.
know how to call right,
Right.
exactly.
And so
There's another way is my point.
that's right. And I think the more you practice it,
Mhm.
the more it becomes a natural like rhythm.
Exactly. So when something comes up, like the glass breaks on the counter, or your boss calls and asks for something, like all these things that used to throw you into a tizzy,
Right.
you're like, "Okay, no problem, I got it."
Yeah. Well, and when you're regulated, you have more control over your
Yes.
arousal system, right? Like how
Mhm.
reactive you are. It's just the way it is. And so, yeah, when we retrain our bodies to be more relaxed and calm and regulated. I mean, I keep using the word
I
regulated.
love that though,
That's what
yes.
it is. I mean, we have to work with our nervous system, not against it. I think I
Exactly.
heard somebody say, um, that our breath is like the steering wheel of our nervous system. So I
I
really
like
want
that.
for people to understand the power of simply slowing down your breathing properly. Number one,
Mhm.
that's a whole nother conversation, like nasal breathing, breathing through your nose, taking a slow, deep, relaxed breath as often as possible. But it really does have such a massive impact on our nervous system. So
It has a massive impact, and I think sometimes when you're stressed all the time, you can't believe that something so simple can help you, but it can.
it can.
And I know it can because I've experienced it, but I love that there is another way. Like when people think there's no way I'm going to not be stressed, it's possible to not have as much stress as you
Mhm.
have. It really is. And I know you work with women one-on-one and you have a community. Am I correct? Can you tell
Yes.
us about that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So let's see. Last summer, I started, it's just a small little intimate community, but I started a community called Unhurried. It's now just essentially a course, like with 7 modules, and we walk through, a lot of what we've talked about today, along with, embodying, embracing some of these spiritual rhythms or sacred rhythms like simplicity, silence and solitude, rest, or Sabbath, but really making it very practical, simple, and how do we start to make some of these small shifts that are sustainable for our lives? So the
Mhm.
course is called Unhurried. It's there's a special like founding member price, and then you get access to the community piece. And so that's one little piece of my business. Yes, I do kind of that one-on-one private mentorship. And then I'm working on a mastermind of sorts. It's called Women Who Rest, and just kind of gathering data right now and interest. And that's really going to be an intimate, like cohort of women creators, entrepreneurs, leaders that are really, have a deep desire to live and create and be, navigate life in a different way and business and their purpose in a different way. So we're going to come together and do some pretty cool things to make an impact,
I
right?
love
Yeah,
Yes, that sounds amazing. And your course, that's available all the time?
all the time. Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So interesting. I love the word unhurried. I love that. And I love women who rest because I do think rest also can be a hard one. It's
Sure.
almost a status symbol sometimes that the lack of sleep we're getting or what our watch is telling us and that can improve as well just in
Absolutely.
terms of not only I always say there's different types of rest. There's rest in our days, there's rest at night, there's so many different avenues of rest.
You're exactly right.
And
Yes.
I love that. So what's the best way for women to find you?
Well, I have a website, mindfulhouse.com. That's a great way to just kind of learn more about me and the work that I do. It's very simple. I am on social media, just not super often. You can probably understand why. It kind of goes
I
against
know it's a
everything I
hard one,
stand for.
right?
Yes,
I
but
agree with you. Yes. I can't do things that I like. I try to be active out there, but it's hard. I
it
can't
is.
do things that don't agree with what I'm trying to do in my life.
Yes, yes. And I think there's a good balance in everything. And so I
Hmm.
try to be on a little bit just so people know I'm still around and I'm here and and so I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. Facebook is more like a personal thing for me, friends and family, that kind of thing. But I have a beautiful newsletter that I'm very proud of. I will not like if you want to, join my newsletter, you can find that on my website. I think today I'm offering like some free breathwork practices, simple practices for inducing calm in your body. So when you sign up for that newsletter, you get that. And yeah, I just love to continue to encourage women around everything that we've talked about. I love it, and I'm just happy to support women however they need it. So lots of free resources is my point.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing, every bit of it. I think we all need this. So many women need it. The more that we can reach, the better. What would you leave what would you leave women with that are listening that might go to your website or join or just some simple things, whether it's with breath work or something else that they could start today, just very simply?
Oh, yeah. So I'm just going to offer a quick breath work uh, technique or pattern and
Okay.
just to try out. I think that so I'm all about experiencing something rather than just
Mm-hmm.
learning something new. But but today, just try slowing down your breathing to about a 5-second inhale through your nose and a 5-second exhale through your mouth. Do a few rounds of that. I always like to do a breath prayer, maybe saying, inhale, I inhale peace, I exhale fear. whatever. You can create your own. But this pattern, it's actually been studied quite extensively by the Heart Math Institute. It's called heart focused breathing, even more powerful when you bring your awareness, your focus to your heart. And you're just slowing down your breath to that rhythmic pace, and it's doing profound things for your body, for your physiology, for your heart rate. It's bringing your heart and mind into coherence. It's been studied again. Our heart has this beautiful, electromagnetic field that extends out, from us. And so this is a powerful tool. So try it today. So just that,
I
5 second
love that.
inhale, 5 second exhale. And I'd love, yeah, to hear from anybody. Let me know how that felt for you.
Well, I love that because you can do that at your desk. You
Totally.
can do that in the kitchen while you're cooking. If you feel like you're trying to figure out where am I going to do this, like you can
Mhm.
do it anywhere,
Yeah. And
right?
a
Like,
great little tip for that is like I like the idea of habit stacking. So if
hmm
you can attach it to something you do already, like if you make a cup of coffee every morning, I'm going to do a 5 second inhale and exhale every time I make a cup of coffee, or while I'm making that coffee, or when
that's
you're
great.
driving in your car. Like, so stack it. So that's how it will become a habit, or put a sticky note on your mirror, whatever.
hmm
But try it and see, notice how you feel. And so over time, as we start to incorporate this more slow, steady, deep breathing, but in a relaxed way, the more our body gets used to that. And then the
Mm,
more, we start to notice when we're breathing in that shallow, through our neck and shoulders, like our upper chest, when we're not taking those deep, full breaths. So it just becomes more comfortable for us to actually slow down our breathing. And
absolutely.
that's what I want for each of
I
us.
love that.
Yeah.
I love attaching it to something. I drink too much coffee, so I love attaching it to that. I really think I'm going to attach it to that.
Yes.
And I can't say this enough. Like, we think it's so simple, but these simple ways, they change your life. Like, you just start that, like what you just gave them to start, the deep breathing or attaching. I like the prayers, peace in, fear out.
Mhm.
Those simple things, putting a sticky note on your mirror, that's how you start changing your days and your life little by little. Um,
Absolutely.
well, I love this conversation, Julie. I know I could talk to you so
You.
much more, but I feel like it's such a good place to start. And I'm going to put all your information in the show notes. And I think everyone should get on your newsletter and just get those simple shifts to start in your life. And then if they, would like to start working with you, I think that's great as well. I like your course, even how you describe that, and the mastermind coming. These are all wonderful things for all of us in this world. So thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Oh my gosh. It's a delight for me, and I'm honored that you invited me. And I hope everybody got some value out of this conversation. I loved it too.
I know they did, and we thank you so much. And maybe we can continue this conversation another time because you're doing big things and wonderful things for women in this world. So thank you again.
Definitely.